The day started gray and heavy, the sky mourning with me, rain streaking down the windshield as I clutched the steering wheel, my knuckles white, my stomach twisting with dread. Alex sat beside me, silent, his hand resting on mine in an unspoken attempt at comfort. I couldn't even see straight. My eyes kept wandering to the rearview mirror, imagining my little boy sitting there with a backpack, waving goodbye before school. Only, Liam wasn't coming home. When we arrived at the funeral home, the air felt like lead, the smell of polished wood, flowers, and faint perfume lingering in the lobby. People moved quietly, whispering to each other, their voices soft as if afraid of disturbing grief itself. I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself, and approached the reception desk. "Emily." "Alex," said Mrs. Dalloway, the funeral director, her tone gentle, "they've prepared everything, the casket is ready." I nodded, my throat tight. I didn't have the words. We walked into the chapel. Sunlight struggled through the rain-streaked windows, casting jagged shadows across the polished wooden pews. There he was. My son. My beautiful, brilliant, perfect Liam. 8 years old. A shock of brown hair, tiny hands folded neatly on his chest, his favorite blue toy car resting beside him. I felt as if the room had suddenly contracted, the walls pressing against me with unbearable weight. And then I noticed something, or rather, someone missing. Where are my parents?" I whispered, my voice trembling. Alex glanced at me, his jaw tight. "Maybe they're running late, traffic, you know?" Traffic. My parents, who had always prided themselves on punctuality, on appearances, had apparently decided that the funeral of their only grandson was less important than something else. Something that could wait. Something that didn't matter. I could barely breathe. My knees threatened to buckle. My stomach roiled with nausea. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hurl the flowers at the empty space where they should have been. But I didn't. I folded my hands over my chest, leaning toward the casket, feeling the small rise and fall of Liam's tiny chest in my imagination. "Mom." "Dad," I whispered, though I knew they wouldn't hear me. Alex's arm circled my shoulders, steadying me. "Emily, you're doing so well. Let's just say goodbye, okay?" I nodded, tears blurring my vision. I stepped closer, feeling the polished wood of the casket beneath my fingertips. The little shoes. The toy car. The drawings Liam had made for me pinned to the sides of the casket, stick figures with enormous smiles, houses with crooked chimneys, suns with too many rays. My heart shattered again. "Emily?" A voice broke through the haze. It was Mrs. Dalloway, whispering gently. "Would you like to have a moment alone with him?" I nodded. Yes, please." Alex stepped back, letting me kneel beside Liam. I traced the tiny curve of his cheek, felt the small warmth that memory held, and whispered stories to him, stories about the day he learned to ride his bike, the time he got a gold star at school, the silly joke he told that made the whole class laugh. I didn't notice the minutes slipping by, didn't notice the soft sobs of mourners, the occasional shuffle of feet. I was in a world of my own, a world that existed only with Liam, where he was still alive, still here, still mine. Then the door creaked open, and my heart stopped. Not my parents. Not yet. Just someone I knew but didn't expect. My sister, Claire. She looked pale, her makeup smudged, and her eyes wide with disbelief. She didn't come forward, she froze at the threshold, taking in the scene, her own grief spilling onto her face. "Emily," she whispered, her voice breaking. I looked up, my own tears still streaming. "Claire, you're here." My voice was hoarse. "Where are Mom and Dad?" She shook her head, biting her lip. They said they couldn't make it. Something about the wedding, I wanted to scream. The anger and hurt that had been simmering beneath my grief exploded. "The wedding?" I choked out. "My son is dead, Claire. My son. And they're going to spend money, our son's money, for God's sake, on a wedding?" She winced, her hand reaching for mine. I know, Em. I can't explain. I didn't want this either. I pulled away, my body trembling. "You don't get it. They didn't even try. They couldn't even come to say goodbye to Liam. And they're going to spend money, our son's money, for God's sake, on a wedding?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know they were going to do that. I swear. But I couldn't hear her. I couldn't process anything. My grief, my fury, my disbelief all roared inside me. I sank to the floor beside Liam's casket, wrapping my arms around myself. Alex knelt next to me, pressing a hand against my back. "Emily, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to cry," he whispered. It's all okay." I shook my head. "No. It's not okay. Not okay at all. My parents are monsters." Claire crouched down beside me, hesitantly. "Emily, please. Let's just remember him. Together." I looked at her, and I wanted to hate her. I wanted to blame her too, just like I blamed everyone else. But she was my sister. She was the only family I had left. And for Liam. I nodded slowly, allowing her to sit beside me, her hand reaching for mine again. We stayed like that for hours, speaking softly to Liam, sharing memories, telling him stories. The rain continued outside, the gray light seeping through the windows. The chapel seemed endless, stretching around us in our shared grief. And through it all, one truth became crystal clear: my parents had chosen. They had chosen their vanity, their social appearances, over love, over family, over Liam. And I would never forgive that. But for now, there was nothing I could do except hold my son, honor his life, and let the tears fall freely. Because when a child dies, the world doesn't stop. It just continues to move around your grief, expecting you to survive. And survive, I would. Somehow, I would survive. It was the day after the funeral, and I thought the worst had already happened, but grief has a way of deepening in unexpected ways. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at Liam's toy car from the night before, when the phone rang. I didn't want to answer, but Alex gave me a gentle nudge and said, "Emily, maybe it's someone important." I picked up the receiver, my hand trembling. "Hello?" "Emily, darling," my mother's voice purred on the other end, smooth and chilling in its calmness. "I hope I'm not disturbing you at such a sad time." I wanted to scream, I wanted to hang up, I wanted to throw the phone across the room. But something in me forced me to stay. "Mom, what do you want?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "It's about Liam, his trust fund," she said casually, as if discussing the weather, as if I hadn't just buried my only son. My stomach dropped. "What trust fund?" I demanded, my chest tightening. "The fund we set up for his college, of course, $850,000, isn't it?" "We were thinking," she paused, drawing out the suspense in the most cruel way, "we were thinking it might be useful for Claire's wedding. You know, flowers, the venue, the dress. It's such an expensive affair, darling." I couldn't breathe. My hands gripped the edge of the table until my knuckles turned white. You want my son's money for her wedding?" My voice cracked. "Oh, Emily," she cooed, "don't be so dramatic. He won't be needing it anymore, will he?" The world tilted, my vision blurred. I dropped the phone. Alex caught it before it hit the floor, but he didn't say a word, his face pale. "Emily," he whispered, holding me as I sank to my knees, shaking. "They can't do this. They can't, it's his money, it was for him. They can't do this," I repeated, almost like a mantra, but the truth is, they could, and they would, and they had already started. For the next hour, I went through every possible scenario in my head. Lawyers, legal documents, bank restrictions, everything to make sure my son's fund would stay untouched. I called a lawyer, someone I trusted, someone who understood the stakes. "Emily," she said gently, "we can secure the trust. Your parents can't touch a dime if we move fast, but you have to be firm. No hesitation. No emotion that can be exploited." I nodded, tears streaking my face. "I will. I have to. For Liam." Hours later, after hanging up with the lawyer, I felt a knock at the door. I opened it to find Claire standing there, her eyes red and swollen, a crumpled tissue in her hand. "Emily." I came as soon as I could. I didn't know they were planning this. I swear, I never wanted Liam's trust fund touched. Her voice faltered, and I could see the raw fear and grief etched on her face. "Claire," I whispered, trying to control my rage and sorrow, "my parents, they're monsters. They want my son's money for a wedding. How could they even think?" She stepped closer, wrapping her arms around me, sobbing. "I know, Emily. I know. And I'm so sorry. I would never use his money for that. Please, please believe me." I wanted to push her away, to yell, to curse, to scream at the unfairness of it all, but I didn't. I wanted to hate her, but she was my sister, and for Liam, I had to let her in. "Okay," I said finally, my voice trembling, "okay, but we have to stop them. No one touches that fund. Not for Claire, not for anyone." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I'll help. I swear." That night, we drafted a plan together, talking in hushed voices over Liam's drawings spread out across the kitchen table. We discussed legal measures, financial safeguards, and ways to confront my parents without letting them manipulate us further. Each detail was heavy with sorrow, each sentence punctuated by the memory of Liam laughing, of Liam asking me to tuck him in one more time. When we finally collapsed onto the couch, exhausted and emotionally drained, Claire whispered, "I never wanted this. I wanted to be your sister, Emily. I wanted to be part of Liam's life." I rested my head against hers, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of betrayal lifted just a little. "You are part of it," I said softly. "But we have to be strong. For him. Always." That night, I cried myself to sleep, imagining Liam safe and laughing somewhere, free from the cruelty and selfishness of the people who should have loved him most. And in the quiet of that grief, I made a vow: his money, his memories, his legacy would be protected. No one, not even my parents, would take that from him. The morning after that phone call, I woke up with a heaviness I couldn't shake, the kind that pressed down on my chest and made it hard to breathe. Alex was already in the kitchen, coffee in hand, scrolling through his phone, his face tense. "Morning," he said quietly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Morning," I whispered back, my throat still raw from the sobs I had held in all night. We sat across from each other at the table, Liam's blue toy car still sitting in the center, like a silent witness to everything. "We need a plan," I said finally, trying to keep my voice steady, though it shook. "We can't let them get away with this. They can't touch his trust fund." Alex nodded, taking a sip of coffee. "I agree. I called a lawyer friend yesterday, someone who handles trusts and estates. She says we can secure it, make it untouchable, but we have to act fast." I swallowed, nodding. "Good. Set it up. I want them locked out completely. No exceptions." Hours later, we were in a lawyer's office, the air crisp with the smell of paper and leather. Emily, a name I used to feel proud saying, was now filled with a new kind of purpose. "So," said the lawyer, "Miss Hargrove," a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with a voice that demanded attention, "here's what we'll do. We'll put the trust under a legal hold, freeze all access, and revise the beneficiaries. We'll send a certified notice to your parents stating they have no authority. If they try to contest it, we take them to court. We make it absolutely clear, this is untouchable." I felt a shiver run through me. "Do it," I said. "I don't care what it takes. No one is getting to his money. Not them, not anyone." Alex squeezed my hand under the table, his eyes filled with silent support. "I'm with you, Em," he said. "Every step." We spent the afternoon drafting letters, preparing documents, and making phone calls. Every word, every sentence felt heavy with grief and anger. I could feel the weight of Liam's absence pressing down, but at the same time, it fueled me, gave me a purpose beyond the hollow ache of loss. Later that evening, as we returned home, I received a text from Claire. "I'll be there in an hour. Let's make sure they can't touch anything." I nodded to Alex. "Good. She's on our side." An hour later, Claire arrived, carrying a folder of her own notes, legal articles, and suggestions. We spent the evening strategizing, our voices low but intense, the shadows of the room stretching around us as the rain continued to beat against the windows. "They'll try to manipulate us," Claire said, her voice firm but worried. "You know how they are. They'll guilt, threaten, even cry if they have to. We have to stay strong." I nodded, my jaw tight. "I know. We can't let them get to me. We can't let them get to the money." As the night stretched on, I felt something I hadn't felt since Liam's death: control. Not over life, not over grief, not over death, but over the one thing I could protect: his future. I thought about what they might say, the lies they might spin, the ways they might try to twist the law and our emotions. I imagined the confrontation, my parents standing there, faces smug, expecting me to bow and comply. But I would not. I would not bend. We created lists, detailed plans, contingencies for every scenario. I made phone calls to the bank, to the trustee, and even to the state attorney's office to ensure there would be no loopholes. Each call, each document, each strategy made me feel alive in a way I hadn't since Liam's death. It was as if my son's memory was giving me strength, pushing me forward to fight for him even after he was gone. By midnight, we were exhausted but resolute. Claire and I sat on the couch, looking at the city lights through the rain-streaked window. "We'll protect him," I said softly, almost to myself. "No one touches what's his." Claire nodded, tears in her eyes. "I promise, Emily. We'll do it. Together." Alex put an arm around both of us, pulling us close. The three of us sat there in silence for a while, the sound of rain outside matching the quiet storm in our hearts. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a new resolve. Liam had left a void in our lives, but he had also left a mission. His trust, his memory, his future, even if he never got to live it, was ours to protect. And protect it we would. No one, not my parents, not anyone, would take that from him. And for the first time in days, I felt a small flicker of control, a spark of strength in the darkness of my grief. It was late afternoon when Claire finally came to the house again, her face pale, her hands fidgeting nervously as she stood on the doorstep. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at Liam's drawings, when I heard the soft knock. "Come in," I called, my voice tighter than I intended. She stepped inside, her eyes flicking to the toy car, the little shoes on the shelf, her mouth opening and closing like she didn't know where to begin. "Emily," she said, voice trembling, I need to talk to you." I didn't move, just stared at her, the anger and grief still raw in every muscle. "About what?" I said, my voice almost a whisper, but sharp, like glass. "About them," she said, gesturing vaguely toward the empty space where our parents should have been, "and about the trust fund." My hands clenched into fists under the table. "I don't want to hear it, Claire. I don't want to hear excuses. My son is dead, and they want his money for a wedding. Do you understand how sick that is?" She took a shaky step forward. "I do, Emily. I swear, I didn't know they were going to do this. I never wanted Liam's money. I only ever wanted to honor him, to to be part of his life. I never thought they'd use it like this. Please, believe me. I felt my chest tighten, the rage and hurt twisting in my stomach, but something in her voice, raw and trembling, reached me. Why now, Claire? Why come to me now? She swallowed hard. Because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try. I don't care about their plans. I don't care about the wedding. I care about you, Emily. And about Liam. I want to help. I want to protect him, even if he's gone. I wanted to scream, to shout, to push her away, but instead I found myself standing, trembling, shaking with all the emotions I'd been holding inside. You really mean that? I asked, my voice breaking. Tears welled in her eyes, and she nodded, stepping closer. I swear, Emily. I mean it. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, the lump in my throat making every word a battle. Okay, I said finally, my voice soft but firm. We'll do this together. We protect Liam. No one touches that fund. Not them. Not anyone. And if we have to fight tooth and nail, we will. She reached for my hand, holding it tightly. I'm with you, Emily. Every step. I promise. For a moment, the kitchen was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the rain tapping softly against the windows. I looked at her, really looked, and I realized that despite everything, she was the only family I had left who truly understood, who truly cared. We spent hours that night going over plans, reviewing letters, and strategizing every possible move our parents could make. Her presence was steadying, a small light in the dark storm of grief and betrayal. As the night stretched on, I found myself speaking to her not just as my sister, but as my ally, my partner in protecting the last vestiges of Liam's life. We whispered memories of him, shared stories that made us laugh and cry at the same time, and slowly, carefully, I felt the rage and despair shift into determination. Claire stayed until late, helping me draft final notes and ensuring that the trust fund would be locked down legally, the letters to our parents finalized and ready to be sent. As she hugged me goodbye at the door, I felt a flicker of hope, the first real spark of it since Liam had died. Thank you, I whispered, my voice cracking, tears streaming freely. For being here. For being you. She hugged me tighter. Always, Emily. For Liam and for you, always. And as I watched her walk away into the rainy night, I realized that despite the betrayal, despite the grief, despite the world feeling unbearably cruel, I was no longer completely alone. We would fight for Liam together, and somehow, I knew, we would protect him, even from those who should have loved him most. It started with subtle things at first, emails, phone calls, little hints that my parents were already plotting their next move. The first call came late one evening, my phone vibrating insistently on the kitchen counter. I picked it up, seeing my mother's name flashing across the screen, and my stomach dropped. Hello? I said cautiously, my voice tight. Emily, darling, she began, her tone silk over steel, I'm just concerned. You know, about Liam's trust fund. We were only hoping to discuss ways the money could be put to use. For the family. My fingers tightened around the phone. Don't call me darling. And don't discuss Liam's money. You have no right. She laughed softly, that sickly sweet sound that always made my skin crawl. Oh, Emily, you wound me. I'm only trying to help. I thought you'd appreciate some guidance from your parents in a difficult time. Guidance? I hissed. You mean theft disguised as advice? She paused, as if considering how to respond. Emily, you're being dramatic. We just want what's best. Claire's wedding is coming, and it's expensive. Surely you understand family obligations. Family obligations? I snapped. You couldn't even attend your grandson's funeral. How dare you speak of obligations? I hung up before she could reply, my hands shaking, my chest tight with fury and grief. That night, Alex held me while I cried, the anger and helplessness mixing into a storm inside me. We can't let them do this, I whispered. We have to be ready for anything. Over the next few days, the attacks escalated. My parents sent letters, carefully worded to sound caring but filled with veiled threats. They called friends and relatives, subtly planting seeds of doubt, implying that I was being selfish, that I was withholding the money, that I was being unreasonable. Each letter, each phone call, made my blood boil, but I refused to respond in anger. Instead, I documented everything, photographing letters, recording emails, noting every call. I felt like I was in a battlefield, and every moment of caution and preparation was a small victory. Then one afternoon, Claire and I were sitting in the living room, going over our plan for the trust, when the doorbell rang. I froze. Alex whispered, "Don't answer." Could be them. But Claire insisted, walking to the door. It was my father, standing there with that familiar, smug expression, holding a bouquet of flowers as if he belonged. "Emily," he said smoothly, "I just wanted to talk. About Liam. And about the trust. I think we can come to an understanding." "Not here," Claire said firmly, her tone sharper than I had ever heard. "You're not welcome." He smirked, stepping closer. "Oh, come now. Don't be so hostile. We're family. Surely we can discuss this civilly." I stepped in front of Claire, blocking him. "No. You will not touch a penny of Liam's money. You will leave, and you will never speak of it again. Or you will see us in court." His eyes narrowed, a flash of anger crossing his face. "Emily, you're being ridiculous. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything we've done for you, after everything we've done?" I repeated, voice rising. "You skipped your grandson's funeral. You're trying to steal his money. That's what you've done." He flinched as if my words hit him physically, and then he turned and left, muttering threats under his breath. I slammed the door, my hands trembling. Claire wrapped her arms around me. "It's going to get worse," she whispered. "They'll try everything." I nodded, my eyes burning with resolve. "Let them. We'll be ready. We'll fight. And we won't lose." Over the next few weeks, the attacks continued, calls, letters, manipulations, even friends questioning me, subtly echoing my parents' lies. But I was ready. I had Alex and Claire by my side, the legal team prepared, and a resolve stronger than grief. Every night, I sat with Liam's drawings, speaking to him, promising him I would protect his future. And each time my parents tried to strike, I remembered that promise. Nothing, not their guilt trips, not their money, not their manipulation, would take that from him. And in the quiet of those nights, I felt a strange strength growing inside me, a determination that they could never break. They were monsters, yes, but I had something they could never touch, my love for Liam and my unwavering determination to honor him. And that would be their undoing. The days after the confrontation with my parents felt heavy, but they also felt different. Like a small, fragile shift had begun inside me. I spent hours alone in Liam's room, tracing the outlines of his little desk, his books, the sketches taped to the walls, and the shelf where his toy cars sat in perfect order. I picked up his favorite stuffed bear, holding it close, breathing in the faint scent of him that still lingered, and for the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to smile through the tears. Alex came in quietly, sitting beside me on the floor. "It's okay to remember the happy times, you know," he said softly, wrapping an arm around my shoulder. I nodded, my fingers brushing over Liam's notebook. "I keep thinking about the last day he was alive, the way he ran to the mailbox to check for letters, how he laughed when the wind blew his hair into his face, how he told me he loved me for no reason at all." My voice broke, and Alex held me tighter. "He was special," he said. "And he still is, in every memory, every story you tell." That night, Claire came over with an old photo album she had found at her house. We sat cross-legged on the living room floor, flipping through pages filled with Liam's life, his first steps, his birthday parties, the messy cake, the glittery school projects, the silly faces he made at the camera. Tears fell freely, but laughter came too, and for the first time, grief felt balanced by love. "Do you remember this day?" Claire asked, pointing to a photo of Liam with his arms stretched wide in the backyard, grass stains on his knees, a triumphant grin on his face. I nodded, smiling through tears. He was convinced he could fly if he just ran fast enough. I told him he couldn't, but he tried anyway. Claire laughed softly. That was Liam. He tried everything with all his heart. Those moments became our daily ritual. Each morning, I would sit with his drawings, his toys, or the old photo albums, telling him stories, laughing, crying, remembering. Each evening, we would gather as a family, Alex, Claire, and I, and talk about what Liam loved, what he dreamed of, the jokes he made that still made us laugh, and the little lessons he left behind. Slowly, the rage against my parents lessened. Not that I forgave them, not yet, but the focus shifted. Liam's memory, his joy, became our shield, our anchor. And as the weeks passed, I began to see something else, hope. A fragile, shimmering hope that life could continue, that joy could return, even in the shadow of grief. One afternoon, as I walked through the park where Liam loved to run, I let my fingers trail through the grass, imagining him running ahead of me, laughing. I smiled genuinely, feeling his presence in the wind, in the sunlight, in the songs of birds. Claire walked beside me, holding my hand. He's everywhere, Emily, she whispered. And he'll always be. I nodded, feeling the lump in my throat soften, replaced by warmth. I know, I said. I can feel him, Claire. I can feel him in every little thing. And in that moment, I realized that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant carrying him with me, letting his memory guide my steps, giving me strength to face the battles ahead, and courage to protect what was his. Because Liam had left us more than grief, he had left us love, resilience, and a reason to fight for what was right. And I would honor that every single day, in everything I did. The day of Claire's wedding arrived with sunlight breaking through the clouds, a rare calm after weeks of rain, and I stood at the edge of the ceremony space, feeling the weight of everything that had happened, the grief, the battles, the fights to protect Liam, all pressing against me, but also giving me strength. Guests were arriving, laughter and chatter filling the air, but my eyes kept drifting to the empty chairs where my parents should have been, and I felt a pang of anger and sorrow, tempered by the quiet relief that they had chosen themselves, and we had chosen peace. Claire approached me, radiant in her dress, tears glistening in her eyes, and I hugged her tightly. "Thank you for being here," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I wouldn't have done this without you." I held her a little longer, breathing in the moment, letting the warmth and love we shared as sisters seep into my aching heart. "We did it for Liam," I said softly. "He's the reason any of this matters." The ceremony began, and my heart tightened with every vow, every smile, every look of love exchanged between Claire and her new husband. But the real moment came later, when Claire stepped forward with a letter in her hands, a letter she had asked me to write in Liam's memory. She cleared her throat, her voice breaking slightly, and began to read aloud, "Today, we celebrate love, family, and the joy that life brings us. But we also remember a little boy who brought light into our lives, who taught us to laugh, to cherish every moment, and to love unconditionally. Liam was with us in spirit today, smiling, watching, and reminding us that even in grief, there is love." Tears streamed down my face, and I saw the same in Alex's eyes, in Claire's, in many of the guests. The words felt alive, as if Liam himself was speaking through us, filling the space with his presence. I stepped forward, addressing everyone, my voice trembling but steady. "Liam may not be here in body, but he is here in every memory, in every story we tell, in every act of love we share. Today, we honor him, we protect him, and we carry him forward in our hearts." The ceremony continued, and for the first time since his death, I felt a sense of closure. The laughter, the music, the joy of the wedding mingled with the memory of Liam, not erasing the grief but balancing it with love, remembrance, and hope. At the reception, I watched Claire dance, her happiness genuine, untainted by the greed and manipulation of our parents who had chosen not to attend. I felt a quiet satisfaction knowing that Liam's trust fund was safe, untouched by anyone who did not deserve it, and that his memory had guided us to this moment of triumph. That night, as I stood under the stars with Alex and Claire, I whispered into the sky, imagining Liam smiling down at us. "We did it, baby," I said softly. "We kept our promise. We protected your future. We honored your life." And in that quiet moment, I felt him with us, in the gentle breeze, in the warm glow of the evening lights, in the love that surrounded us. It was the first time in months that I felt truly at peace, knowing that despite the pain, despite the betrayal, love and memory had triumphed, and that Liam's light would continue to shine in our hearts forever. Months had passed since Claire's wedding, and slowly, the sharp edges of grief began to dull, though they never fully disappeared. The house felt quieter now, not in a lonely way, but in a reflective, almost sacred way, like it had absorbed all the sorrow and was holding it tenderly, allowing space for healing. Liam's toys remained meticulously arranged on the shelves, his little blue cars lined up in the exact order he always preferred, his drawings still pinned to the walls with care. Each scribbled sun, each stick figure, each crooked rainbow wasn't just a memory. It was a testament to the joy, curiosity, and energy he had brought into our lives, and now I saw them not only as reminders of loss, but as guidance, as pieces of his spirit I could carry forward. Alex and I would often sit at the kitchen table in the early morning light, drinking coffee in quiet companionship. We didn't need to speak every time, sometimes just watching the sun catch the dust motes floating in the air, listening to the distant laughter of children outside, was enough. "You've changed," he said softly one morning, glancing at me with concern and admiration. "I see it. You're stronger. More determined." I looked down at my hands, tracing the lines I hadn't noticed before, and I realized he was right. Grief had forced me into a kind of armor, a sharp edge of vigilance and resolve, but it was tempered with love and reflection. "I have to be," I said quietly, my voice steady but not without tremor. "For Liam. For us. For everything he would have wanted me to fight for." The trust fund, once the focal point of so much tension, manipulation, and heartbreak, had finally been secured. My parents had tried in small, subtle ways to regain access, but their schemes had failed. I had learned to anticipate their tactics, documenting every call, every letter, every attempt at coercion or guilt. The legal hold ensured the money would never be touched by anyone who did not genuinely honor Liam's memory. And I decided that the fund would serve a purpose far greater than personal gain. It would become a legacy for him. Scholarships for children in need, support for families facing tragedy, small acts that could ripple into hope. Every decision I made, every life touched by that money, felt like an extension of Liam's light, a way of keeping him alive in the world, even though he was gone from our arms. Claire and I had grown closer than I could have imagined possible. Her presence was steadying, a balm for the raw edges of my grief, and she often reminded me that she too had felt powerless when our parents had betrayed us. Together, we created rituals that kept Liam's memory alive, sharing his favorite stories, laughing at the little antics he used to get up to, and honoring the lessons he had taught us about kindness, courage, and joy in the simplest moments. One afternoon, I walked through the park where Liam had loved to run, the sun warm on my skin, the smell of wet grass rising after a light drizzle. I could almost hear his laughter on the wind, see him darting ahead, arms outstretched, fearless and free. I closed my eyes and whispered, "I see you, baby. I feel you. I promise, I'm keeping my word." Claire walked beside me, holding my hand, her grip gentle but firm, a silent reminder that I wasn't alone. "He's everywhere, Emily," she whispered softly. "In the wind, in the light, in the laughter you share with others. And he'll always be with us." I nodded, feeling the lump in my throat soften into warmth. "I know," I said, my voice catching. "I can feel him. And I'll make sure the world knows he mattered, that his life, though short, changed everything." That night, I sat in Liam's room, holding his favorite stuffed bear, the fabric worn but comforting. I traced the little stitched smile on its face and imagined him looking at me with those big, bright eyes, full of wonder and love. "I'm okay now, baby," I whispered, tears streaming freely. I'm keeping my promise. Your life, your memory, your legacy, it's safe. And I'll make sure it helps others, just like you would have wanted. The tears fell, but they were softer now, mingled with smiles, hope, and determination. The grief had not vanished, it never would, but it had transformed, from a force that broke me into a force that drove me. Life moved forward, slow and steady, and each sunrise became a promise of new beginnings. I planted a small garden in Liam's memory, sunflowers and marigolds reaching toward the sky, a reminder that beauty could grow even from sorrow. And in that movement, I found a peace I had feared impossible, a quiet strength that no betrayal, no grief, no loss could ever undo. Liam's light, though gone from my arms, continued to shine through every choice I made, every life I touched, and every act of love I carried forward. I had survived the cruelty of loss, the selfishness of those who should have cared, and the dark days of despair. And I realized, finally, that moving forward didn't mean forgetting, it meant living, fully, fiercely, with love, courage, and the unwavering promise to honor him every single day. He was gone, yes, but he was everywhere, in my heart, in our family, in the hope we carried for the future. And that was enough. That was more than enough.